Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. It's a warm one here today, so if you hear any noise in the background, it could be my electric fan trying to keep me cool. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has apparently had a rather good second weekend at the box office. So much so that its second weekend domestic box office of $60.5 million was a drop of only 49%. To give you some perspective, that's the third lowest second weekend domestic box office drop for any MCU movie. The only two other MCU movies that had even lower second weekend domestic box office drops were 2011's Thor at 47.2%, and 2018's Black Panther at 44.72%, which is the lowest of the MCU movies. Thus, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has joined only two other MCU movies whose second weekend domestic box office drops were less than 50%. But most of the MCU movies that have been released since 2018's Black Panther have had second weekend domestic box office drops that were over 60%. So, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 represents a huge turnaround for the MCU, especially after the disastrous Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which flopped in theaters earlier this year and whose second weekend domestic box office drop was nearly 70%, and was the highest of all the MCU movies to date. And because Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is outperforming the two MCU movies that I had based my previous projections on in terms of domestic box office drops, it may do much better than those earlier projections suggested. Domestically, when combined with its weekday box office, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has earned a total of $213.2 million to date. Internationally, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 performed even better, earning another $145.7 million for a current international box office of $315.6 million. That was a weekly international box office drop of only 14.3%, whereas the domestic weekly box office drop was 20%. So interest in the film remains higher outside of the US, as I had talked about in a video that I had released last week. Globally to date, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has earned $528.8 million, which is an increase of $240.5 million over its opening weekend, and a global weekly drop of only 16.6%. Effectively, this means that the film will more than likely surpass the estimated break-even point that I had calculated by multiplying its $250 million production budget by 2.5, for a total of $625 million by the end of next weekend. If the break-even point is higher, say closer to 3 times the production budget, that would place it closer to $750 million, which the movie could conceivably surpass in 2 weeks, provided that its box office remains as strong as it currently is. Based on new projections, the movie could conceivably earn over $1 billion at the global box office. And those projections are based on the movie's current box office totals and percentage drops. But I'm not expecting it to surpass the $1.21 billion that the Super Mario Bros. Movie has now globally earned. The Super Mario Bros. Movie only needs to earn another $32 million to overtake the $1,242.8 million global box office of 2018's Incredibles 2 as the third highest grossing animated movie worldwide of all time. My current projections for the movie suggest that it should have no problem surpassing this. To overtake the $1,284.5 million global box office of 2013's Frozen as the second highest grossing animated movie worldwide of all time, the Super Mario Bros. Movie will need to earn another $74 million globally, but my current projections suggest that it may not reach that value. We'll have to wait and see how much more money the movie can earn. But before I close this video out, I'll take a moment to talk about that huge 2023 flop, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. To date, the movie has earned around $205.7 million globally, which remains well below the $375 million estimated break-even point that the film has, that was calculated by multiplying the movie's $150 million production budget by 2.5 to account for the 50% of gross ticket sales that movie theaters keep for themselves, as well as the additional costs of marketing the movie and other miscellaneous costs that studios pay above and beyond the production budget. Obviously, the movie will never earn that much money, but my projections suggest that it may earn a bit more to get to $211 million, which is only $3 million less than the $214 million that I had projected that the movie might earn in a video that I had released back on April 23rd. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves simply never had enough public interest, which is why it has ultimately flopped at the box office, and this is in stark contrast to the high levels of interest in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to see more of our videos in the future and help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.